Nepal Earthquake rocked the Himalayas, killing and injuring thousands. So far, all Korean climbers are reported to be safe. President Park Geun-hye is back home after a 12-day trip to South America. She returns to a stack of issues from selecting a new prime minister to civil servant pension reform. And the latest from the Jeong bribery case. The late Gyeongnam chairman's chief secretary, Lee Yong-ki, has been arrested for destroying evidence. Hello and welcome to News Today on KBS World. It's Monday, April 27th. I'm Luke Clary. Following a devastating earthquake near the Nepalese capital of Kathmandu that has claimed the lives of an estimated 2,500 people so far, the Korean government is trying to ascertain whether any Korean nationals were injured or killed in the disaster. The families of 32 Korean climbers in the Himalayas can breathe a sigh of relief. They have been confirmed to have been evacuated to safety.
27-year-old Jeong Him-chan left for Mount Everest on April 22nd during his trip to Nepal. Just a day before the earthquake, he posted pictures of himself proudly standing at 3,500 meters on his social network site. But all contacts have been severed since the earthquake.
밤새 계속해서 연락 달라고 막 살아있으면 연락 달라고 막 그렇게 하고 아침까지 해도 아무 연락이 없고.
Having been out of contact for 2 days, his father finally received a text message from the son at 9:30 on Sunday night saying that he is safe. Apparently, he had met up with 31 Korean women of a climbing expedition and moved to a camp set up on flatland, safe from aftershocks.
준마 부대원들 중에 로밍을 해가지고 가신 분들이 가끔가다 전화가 터지는가 봐요. 그래서 통화가 되고 해서
Gyeonggi Province, where the climbing team is from, is trying to get them back home as soon as possible. But the exact date cannot be determined yet because aftershocks continue to hit the airport. The Foreign Ministry is operating an emergency response center to check whether other Korean nationals traveling near the area are out of danger. Meanwhile, the Korean government said it is considering offering emergency relief for earthquake-stricken Nepal based on any specific requests made by the country.
President Park Geun-hye has returned from her 12-day trip to South America. Back home, she will have to deal with tough issues like the selection of a new prime minister and civil servant pension reform. Here's the story.
A pile of pending issues awaits President Park Geun-hye, who just returned from her tour of South America. The most pressing issue is the selection of a replacement for Prime Minister Lee Wan-gu, who expressed his intention to resign last week. The president will have to accept Lee's resignation and find a competent, ethical candidate as the sixth prime minister candidate for her government. Other pressing state affairs include a civil servants' pension system reform and the passage of a bill on economic revitalization. The president reiterated the importance of political and social reform during her trip to South America.
사회 곳곳에 오랜 기간 쌓인 적폐들을 해소하고 사회 개혁에 박차를 가해서 경제 재도약을 반드시 이룩하겠습니다.
President Park is scheduled to chair a cabinet meeting on Tuesday. Attention is being focused on how she will respond to the Seongwanjong scandal, for which the opposition camp is demanding a public apology. Political analysts predict that the president will attempt to break through the scandal and the current political deadlock head-on by pushing for drastic political and social reform.
Lee Yong-gi, the chief secretary to the late Gyeongnam chairman Sung Won-jong, has been arrested for destroying evidence related to the bribery scandal. The prosecution is focused on finding secret ledgers presumed to have disappeared while evidence was being tampered with.
Another close aide of the late Gyeongnam Enterprises chairman Sung Won-jong has been arrested. Lee Yong-gi was the late Gyeongnam chairman's chief secretary and a key figure in the recent bribery allegations. Yi is accused of having hidden the chairman's schedule book and accounting documents just a few hours before the prosecution executed a search and seizure order on April 18th. Yi has reportedly said that he had nothing to do with the destruction of evidence. The prosecution recently obtained a schedule book and some of the hidden records, but it hasn't found the secret accounting books that may identify which politicians Sung had lobbied. The prosecution believes that the secret books may have disappeared during the evidence tampering process. Investigators plan to focus their questioning on Yi and Park Jun-ho, a former Gyeongnam Enterprises executive who was arrested earlier. Yi and Park have both maintained that they knew nothing about the late chairman lobbying politicians or keeping secret books.
The supply of lump sum-based 2-year leases known as jeonse is plunging as more and more landlords are opting for monthly leases. The study shows that the housing-related expenses of jeonse households have grown, while those of families paying monthly rent have dropped. Here's the story.
The Hyundai Research Institute announced that the Korean-type Schwabe coefficient, referring to the percentage of household expenditure spent on housing-related expenses, stood at 34.5% last year. The figure suggests that when a family's entire monthly expenditure is $929, its housing-related expenses, including rent and bills for power, water, and gas, come to some $320 or 34.5%. For households headed by those in their 40s, housing-related expenses increased 0.8% from a year earlier. In contrast, housing-related expenses of people in their 20s and 30s and low-income earners dropped 0.5% and 1.7% respectively. To reduce the burden of housing-related costs, the Research Institute advised that a system is needed to stabilize surging deposits of lump sum leases and increase household earnings. In particular, the Institute pointed out that more low-interest loans or rent subsidies should be offered to low-income earners.
It's a sad truth that shoppers must keep their guard up when browsing the aisles at the supermarket. A man in his 50s has been arrested for snatching wallets or purses from people's shopping carts while their owners had their backs turned for a moment.
This is a large supermarket outlet in Gyeonggi Province. A woman left her shopping cart to go look for something. That's when a man who was following her snatched the wallet she had left in the cart. The victim, as well as other shoppers nearby, didn't realize what had happened.
계산할 때 그게 지갑을 꺼내려고 했는데 지갑이 안 보여서 그때 알게 된 거예요. 정말 생각지 못한 짧은 시간에 바로 너무 자연스럽게 가져왔어요.
Recently, a string of such thefts have been taking place at large supermarket outlets in Seoul, Incheon, and the surrounding areas in Gyeonggi Province. The police have caught a 57-year-old man surnamed Do after analyzing surveillance camera footage. Investigators have found that the thief had committed the crime 6 times from February until recently. He stole wallets and cash worth more than $2,300 from shopping carts. His targets were largely housewives shopping alone.
지갑을 손에 든 채로 장을 보고 이렇게 하기는 힘이 드니까 두고 장을 볼 때는 있지만 항상 걱정은 되죠.
The police have arrested Do on the charge of habitual theft.
Termites pose a serious threat to wooden cultural heritage. Spring is the breeding season of termites, and major Buddhist temples are struggling to protect their centuries-old wooden relics from the wood-hungry pests.
The main hall of Sudok Temple, National Treasure number 49, is a wooden structure built in 1308 during the Goryeo era. An anti-pest team's detection dogs wag their tails on a hill behind the main hall. The signal means that they have found termites. A colony of 3-millimeter-long termites was found inside a stump. The bottom of a wooden wall has already been eaten away by termites. There are also signs that columns of the main hall have been damaged. Termites eat wood most voraciously in spring, their breeding season. As a result, this is when cultural heritage artifacts made of wood are most seriously damaged.
습도가 40% 이상이 되면 흰개미가 많이 서식하기 때문에 목조 문화재 주변을 습도가 낮게 하는 게 제일 중요한 방법이 되겠습니다.
With the arrival of spring, ancient Buddhist temples across the nation are waging a war against termites to protect their cultural heritage through measures such as planting trees near centuries-long wooden relics to lure termites away.
Some of the traditional style houses in Korea have been transformed into public facilities such as libraries and residence centers. They've become weekend attractions among families. Here's more.
Walking along a path at the foot of Mount Inwang, one comes across a cozy traditional-style house, or hanok, surrounded by spring blossoms and trees. It looks like an ancient home of an aristocratic family, but in fact, it's a library. Anyone can enter the house for some rest or to read books to the sounds of birds chirping and the flow of a nearby stream.
책상에서 책만 있는데 여기는 자연스럽게 색다른 분위기에서 읽으니까 아이도 책을 너무 좋아하고.
A lecture in the humanities is being given in a traditional-style house. Built in the early 1900s, this house used to be a famous Korean restaurant called Ojinnam. Its original architectural materials were used in the renovation. The house almost disappeared into history due to urban development, but now it serves as a venue of traditional culture for citizens. Traditional-style houses called hanok are being increasingly transformed into public facilities, which has proven to be an effective way to preserve old traditions and hand them down to younger generations.
Middle-aged singers are getting their groove back in the K-pop landscape. Singers who were big stars back in the 1990s are making successful comebacks, breathing new life into the idol-dominated K-pop scene. Take a look.
Singer Park Jin-young rose to stardom in the 1990s with his impressive dance moves. Recently, Park has made a comeback with a characteristically sexy song featuring an alluring melody and witty lyrics. In recent years, Park has been better known as the CEO of a talent management agency. Now, as a middle-aged artist, his new song is sweeping music charts and creating yet another sensation. K-pop duo Jin Sean, also hot artists on the K-pop scene in the 1990s, have likewise made a successful comeback after an 11-year hiatus.
일단 무대에 서는 것 자체는 뭐 설레이고 재밌고요. 그리고 이렇게 설 때마다 여기가 우리의 자리가 아닌가.
Singer Lee Moon-tae, who has released his first album in 13 years, is also changing the dynamics of the K-pop world, befitting the title track of his album, Spring Wind, which features a new singing style. Lee's collaboration with young artists and his new endeavor, which breaks boundaries between generations and genres, has proven to be appealing to young audiences. The return of veteran artists is breathing fresh life into the idol-dominated K-pop scene.
Unfamiliar seafoods like the goose barnacle and a type of clam called baemal are hot eats these days. Let's find out more about these tasty, healthy, and unusual gifts from the sea. These seafoods became a sensation after being featured in a popular variety show. They are goose barnacle and baemal.
조수간만에 차라든지 물이 좀 거칠고 좀 센데 그런데 지금 맛있어. 여기 한번 봐봐요. 맛있잖아.
The goose barnacle may look strange, but it is delicious and quite good for restoring liver function. Baemal can be found living on the rocks along the shores. They're also called true limpets or mini abalones.
배말이 우리 몸에 좋은 거는요, 알긴이라는 성분이 있는데 혈류량이 좋게 해줘가지고서 근육에 힘도 많이 생기게 하기 때문에 근력도 올려주고 또 정력에도 좋거든요.
You can easily scrape off baymal with a knife, and goose barnacles can be picked up with a knife or a hoe.
이 옛날에는 다 먹을 줄 몰랐는데 우리 어민들만 이제 먹을 줄 알고 삶아 먹으면은 맛이 달면서 뒷맛이 뭐랄까 쫀득쫀득하게 참 맛있어 보면.
Here are some recipes for goose barnacles and baymal. Blanch the goose barnacles in boiling water for just a couple of minutes. Remove the dark stem to reveal the white flesh inside. Dip them in vinegary hot pepper sauce and they taste wonderful. That's why they're usually enjoyed with spicy seasoning and vegetables. Baymal can be served in many different ways as well. First, separate the flesh from the shell. Chop them up and stir-fry them in a bit of oil. Add soaked rice and cook at low heat to make the baymal porridge. Use mugwort and season to make a delicious baymal and mugwort soup. Another seafood being spotlighted recently is brown seaweed. People began looking for it after they became aware that brown seaweed contained natural cancer-fighting substances.
이 암세포 주변의 혈관 생성을 억제하면서 암의 전이를 막아주는 효과가 있습니다.
Dried brown seaweed can be fried, and raw brown seaweed is good cooked in soy sauce with black mushrooms and whole garlic cloves. Make your spring meals more delicious and nutritious by serving these unusual seafoods. And now let's take a look at the markets, followed by the world weather. And that's it for this edition of News Today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again at the same time tomorrow. Goodbye.